Alrighty, our second topic here, what we're looking at from Chapter 2, Lesson 3 about deductive reasoning is the Law of Syllogism. And what the Law of Syllogism tells us is that if we know that P implies Q and Q implies R are true statements, then P implies R is also a true statement. So, in algebra terms, that would be like saying we know that x is equal to y and y is equal to z. Then from that, we can also conclude that x is equal to z. It's a very similar thing. That's the law of syllogism. And we're going to look at an example here of how we can use the law of syllogism. So, we're going to use the law of syllogism to draw a conclusion from the following true statements. So again, we got two true statements, and then we're going to figure some stuff out from that. If a number is prime, then it does not have repeated factors. And then also, if a number does not have repeated factors, then it is not a perfect square. So the big thing here is that with the law of syllogism, we have if-then, if-then. You're going to have two if-then statements. And what we're going to be able to do is we're going to basically be able to kind of combine these two into one. So if you have two conditionals and the hypothesis of the second one and the conclusion of the first one are the same, then we can combine those two together using the law of syllogism. So for this, if a number is prime, then it does not have repeated factors. And if a number does not have repeated factors, then it is not a perfect square. So a number to be prime, repeated factors, not a perfect square. We can combine this as if a number is prime, then it is not a perfect square. It is not a perfect square. And again, we get that from combining. Here's our P implies Q implies R. We can combine those two together using the law of syllogism. And just as a quick tip, a repeated factor would be something like this. If I factored 12 down to its prime factorization, I can do 4 times 3 and then 2 times 2. Well, 2 is a repeated factor. It shows up multiple times because 12 is equal to 2 times 2 times 3. So that's what a repeated factor is when one number shows up multiple times when we do the factor trees, the prime factorization. So that's how we can use the law of syllogism. Again, that's if we have P implies Q and Q implies R, and they're both true statements, then P implies R is also a true statement.